The pilot has maybe 8 seconds. The fuel leaking into his cockpit isn't only flammable, it's corrosive. Where it touches his flight suit, it doesn't catch fire, it dissolves. Where it touches skin, there is nothing left to save. He was told this aircraft would help win the war. He was handed the fastest machine in the sky and called a hero for climbing into it. Nobody told him it might kill him long before he ever saw the enemy. Every plane you're about to see was sold as a breakthrough, a faster fighter, a safer airliner. The future of flight itself, and every single one of them turned on the people who trusted it. Test pilots, passengers, whole families waiting at arrival gates, because somewhere, before the very first death, someone saw exactly what was coming and chose to build it anyway. These are the most dangerous planes ever built, counting up to the one that killed the most. And the closer we get to number 1, the harder it becomes to keep calling these accidents. Number 8. The Convair B-58 Hustler. In the late 1950s, it was the future of war itself. The first bomber that could cross the sky at twice the speed of sound, fast enough to outrun the fighters sent up to kill it. On paper, it was untouchable. Inside the cockpit, it was something closer to a trap. The Hustler was brutally unforgiving of the smallest mistake. Slow down a fraction too much on the approach, bank a few degrees too far, and the aircraft would depart controlled flight and take its 3-man crew down with it. Of roughly 116 ever built, about a quarter were lost in accidents, an attrition rate that would be unthinkable today. And ejecting offered little mercy, because punching out at supersonic speed could kill a man with wind blast alone before his parachute ever had the chance to open. The Air Force knew the aircraft was dangerous to fly. They wanted the speed more than they feared the cost, and the protective escape capsule that might have saved some of those crews arrived years too late for the men who needed it first. But the Hustler's crews at least had a fighting chance. The next aircraft gave its pilots almost none. Number 7. The Vought F-7U Cutlass. A radical tailless jet built to be the future of carrier aviation. Sleek, alien-looking, a decade ahead of everything around it. There was just one problem, and it was the most important one. The engines never came close to the power they had promised. Pilots stopped calling it the Cutlass and started calling it the Gutless Cutlass. On the approach to a pitching carrier deck, underpowered and unstable, it became a killer. Its tall, spindly nose gear had a habit of snapping on hard landings, driving the cockpit straight down into the deck. Its handling near the stall took the lives of experienced naval aviators who had done everything by the book. Around 1 in 4 Cutlasses ever built was destroyed, and several of the Navy's own test pilots died trying to tame it. And still it was pushed out to the fleet, because by then, the program had already swallowed too much money and too much pride to admit that it had failed. The Cutlass was simply deadly to fly. The next aircraft was designed around a chemical that could kill its pilot before the wheels ever left the runway. Number 6. The Messerschmitt Me 163 Comet. The fastest aircraft of the entire Second World War, and one of the most genuinely terrifying machines ever strapped to a human being. A rocket-powered fighter that could climb to a bomber formation in minutes and slash through it before the gunners could even swing their turrets. But that performance came from 2 violent fuels, and those fuels could never be allowed to meet by accident, not in the tanks, and never, ever in the cockpit. They were savagely corrosive. A single leak could dissolve a pilot alive in his own seat before he even understood what was happening to him. And because the Comet had no landing gear, touching down instead on a skid with fuel, often still sloshing in its tanks, a hard landing could detonate the remainder and erase both the aircraft and the man inside it in a single flash. By the end, the Comet had killed more of its own pilots than the enemy planes it ever managed to shoot down. Germany kept sending men up in it anyway, out of nothing but desperation. But that was a nation losing a war. The next plane killed in peacetime, and its makers had already been warned. Number 5. The Lockheed F-104 Starfighter. They called it the missile with a man in it, a gleaming Mach 2 interceptor with wings so thin and so sharp that ground crews had to clamp guards over the leading edges so technicians would not slice their hands open just walking past. Lockheed sold it across NATO as the future of Allied air power. Then, West Germany took this high-altitude interceptor, built for clear skies and straight-line speed, and ordered it to fly low-level strike missions through the thick, gray European weather, a role it was never designed to survive. What followed was a slaughter that played out over years. The German Air Force lost nearly 300 of its starfighters and well over 100 of its own pilots. The men flying it gave it new names: the Widowmaker, the Flying Coffin, the Lawn Dart. And the deal that put it there was later exposed as one of the largest bribery scandals in aviation history, with money quietly changing hands to push the jet into air forces that would pay for it in lives. The men in the cockpits died for decisions made in boardrooms. The starfighter killed its pilots one at a time. The next plane killed everyone on board at once, passengers included. Number 4. The de Havilland Comet. Britain's masterpiece, the world's first jet airliner, the future of travel, cruising smoothly above the weather while the rest of the world still rattled along behind propellers. For one brief golden moment, Britain owned the sky, and then the comets began falling out of it. One aircraft, then another, tearing themselves apart in midair at altitude and scattering across the sea, taking everyone aboard with them. There was no fire, no warning, no obvious cause, just perfectly good airliners that suddenly ceased to exist. Investigators chased the mystery for months before they found the killer hiding in plain sight: the windows. The Comet's windows were square, and at the sharp corners of those squares, with every single climb and descent, invisible stress gathered and multiplied until the metal finally split and the entire fuselage unzipped itself in seconds. It was a flaw the world did not yet understand, but it cost dozens of lives to learn it. Every gently rounded airliner window you have ever stared out of exists because of the passengers who died teaching engineers a single brutal lesson: corners kill. The Comet's flaw was a true mystery. The next plane's flaw was no mystery at all. It was a race against the West. Number 3. The Tupolev Tu-144. The Soviet Union's answer to Concord, and in the propaganda war, the Soviets won. The Tu-144 flew first, beating the West into the supersonic age by a matter of months, exactly as the Kremlin had demanded. But it had been rushed into the air, and the engineering had been forced to come second to the politics of being first. In 1973, in front of the entire world at the Paris Air Show, a Tu-144 climbed, faltered, and broke apart in the sky, raining wreckage down onto the village below. The crew was killed instantly. People on the ground, standing in their own homes, were killed too. The aircraft built to prove Soviet supremacy ended up proving something far darker: that a machine designed to win a headline will always, eventually, present the bill, and it is almost never the people who ordered it who end up paying. The Tu-144 was rushed by a government chasing pride. The next plane was doomed by a single door, and by a warning that was deliberately set aside. Number 2. The McDonnell Douglas DC-10. An enormous trijet, a true workhorse of the jet age, carrying hundreds of people at a time across entire oceans. But it carried a flaw at the back of the aircraft, and that flaw had a name long before it ever had victims. The rear cargo door could be forced shut and read as locked when it was not truly latched. At cruising altitude, the pressure difference could blow that door clean off the fuselage, and when it went, the cabin floor directly above it would collapse downward, shearing straight through the control cables that ran through that exact space. Here is the part that must never be forgotten. An engineer named Dan Applegate put this precise disaster into writing in a memo before it ever happened. A near catastrophe over Windsor, Ontario had already shown with a real aircraft full of real people that the danger was no theory at all. The fix was delayed, and in 1974, just outside Paris, a DC-10's cargo door tore open, the floor caved in, the controls went dead, and the aircraft plunged into a forest. Every single soul on board was killed, 346 people, the worst crash in history at the time. They died because a written warning was quietly shelved. Now hold on to that number, 346, because 4 decades later, it happened all over again. Same toll, same excuse. Number 1. The Boeing 737 MAX, the best-selling jet of its entire generation, more efficient, more profitable, and sold to airlines as nothing more than a familiar 737 with better engines, a plane their pilots already knew and trusted. But to make the new aircraft handle like the old one, Boeing added a piece of software called MCAS, a system with the power to push the jet's nose down all on its own. It took its orders from a single sensor. If that one sensor failed and lied, the software would quietly fight the pilots, again and again, all the way down into the earth. And the pilots flying it were never even told that the system existed. In late 2018, a Lion Air 737 MAX dove into the sea off Indonesia, 189 people. Just 5 months later, an Ethiopian Airlines MAX went down minutes after takeoff, 157 more. Add them together, and you arrive at a number we have already buried once tonight, 346. The very same toll as the DC-10, 4 decades apart, born of the very same disease, a danger that was known, a paper trail of warnings, and the decision to keep flying anyway. The MAX was eventually grounded across the entire planet, but by then, the families were already gone. And that is the most dangerous thing an aircraft can ever be. Not poorly built, but knownly flown. If this list disturbed you, then understand this: the aircraft that didn't make the cut are somehow worse. The ones that killed even faster. The ones whose stories were quietly buried so you would never hear them. Every one of them is waiting in the video on your screen right now. Don't look away just yet.